My framework is this is a long-term trend, right? We've got at least another decade in this. At least, probably 2 or 3 decades. But this part of it is going to continue to do very well. Sure, Bitcoin over time, as it gets more users, more adopted, it won't go up as much each cycle, but there'll be plenty of others and plenty of opportunities, money, and writing it off. And then just adding, if you've got money in a bear market. Now, the problem is most of us don't in a recession. But a friend of mine taught me very early on, he said, Raoul, there's a key thing I've learned is he who has cash in a recession is king. So that's that combination of income and opportunity. Look, I mean, they've made it clear, the central banks and the government, that they want everybody to take a shot to the face, i.e. they want demand to go down. And I think that's already happening quite fast.
Well, I've heard that.
So if they put up your mortgage rates, you spend less in restaurants. If you're finding that your food bills at the supermarket are 30% higher than they were, you spend less on something else, right? That's called, because it stops the price of goods rising. So the price of goods moves either because there's not enough supply, which is what we've had a problem with, or it's because there's too much or not enough demand. So if you've got something with restricted supply, so let's think of oil right now. Because of the Russian situation, there is not enough oil for the current demand out there. So the oil price keeps going up. So you and I pay more to drive our cars or to heat or cool our houses. So the only way of solving that one, because you can't get the Russian oil back into the market, is to make us use less oil. So that the price does that automatically because it gets more expensive, we do it. But if you can also then just lower general demand for things, we'll drive our cars less, we'll catch less flights, all of that stuff, and that lowers demand and therefore prices. Because prices rising, inflation, is evil for our savings because the dollar in your bank account is worth less in a year's time. It's currently worth 8% less, which is quite a lot. And so it's this weird situation where we have to take the pain. We're told we can't buy as much and we're forced into it by rising our mortgage costs and our food costs and all of this stuff. And eventually things will slow down, people will be put out of jobs a bit, that kind of stuff. And then the overall demand pandemic, through to supply chain issues, through to underinvestment in commodities, through to the shift to green energy. All of these things have created this moment in time, which is tricky. And, if we relate it to, for example, the crypto market. So why did crypto stop going up? Well, it was macroeconomic factors, and people are like, well, what's that got to do with crypto? Well, really simple is it's a retail-based market. And about sometime last year, prices started to rise. And so people could afford to dollar cost average less. So then there's less demand for crypto and the price of crypto falls. It's as simple as that. I generally think that the market is better at doing it. If you actually see it, from my perspective, somebody who closely follows interest rate markets and stuff like that, they did all of the tightening anyway, well before the Fed. You hear the expression, the Fed are behind the curve. What it means is the bond market's already priced it. Like, interest rates need to go up to slow down the economy because there's too much inflation, and the Federal Reserve are trying to catch up. I actually think the markets do a pretty decent job in the way that you suggest. Prices rise, eventually it gets too expensive, we stop doing it. Now, there's different equations that people fear is when it becomes super entrenched in the economy. And we all go to our bosses and go, I want a pay rise. And everybody does that at the same time. That pushes up prices further. You get more wage rises, and that's a wage price spiral. That really has only happened in the US really once, which was in the late 70s, early 80s, when all of the baby boomers hit kind of 30 years old at the same time. So if you think when you go back to 30, you're kind of settling down with somebody, talk about it in financial market terms or macro terms. I think there's 3 things you need to do here. 1, income. Income rules the world. Income pays your bills. Income can pay your mortgage. Income does everything. Without income, you got nothing. Income takes hard work. It's hard to get up the ladder, earn more income. Secondly, is you need to have optionality. You need to have things that can pay off. A startup or a hobby business on the side can give you optionality, because you can build a business, and a business has intrinsic value, plus it can increase your income. That will never happen if you work for a corporation. Yes, you can have a great career and do fine, but you'll never have that extra upside that you and I have had by building businesses. So that is another thing, is focus on your income, work hard, look for other opportunities that can leverage that income and opportunity set that you've got for you. And then thirdly is, if I've got this income, look for investment opportunities that can change my life. And that doesn't mean being a degenerate gambler. It's like, simply put, if there is a thesis, for example, in cryptocurrency that you and I share, that this is a long-term network adoption of this incredible technology that is exponential in nature and highly volatile, you should be looking at the moments of extreme weakness, the blood on the streets moment, to be buying more, not on leverage, but just putting your money into it. So if you'd have bought a house after the 2008 crisis, you'd have done very well. If you'd have bought it at the peak, you'll have done less well, right? So timing matters. And I looked at this to give you a specific example, just wrote a whole article about this. So what I did is I bought in 2013, $200 per Bitcoin. It went up to,
whoa.
It went up to 1,000. Sorry, it went up to 1,000 in 6 weeks. I was like, oh my God. But I had a long-term thesis. I wrote the first kind of macro strategy paper about the valuation of Bitcoin. I thought this could be worth $1 million. And let's assume I'm an idiot by 90%, it's still worth 100 grand. So this is the best bet I've ever seen. So I held on, and then it fell 82%. And I'm like, wow. But I'd taken the bet, and I put money in, was not levered, and I could afford to take the bet. So I just thought, I'm just going to forget about this and just see, because this is a longer term thing, and you don't normally make money that fast, and doesn't normally fall this fast. So let's just see. And then I kind of forgot about it, 2014, and then 2015 starts going up again, and then by 2017, I'm now mentally scarred from an 82% drop, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I then see confusion in the market about either we're going to fork Bitcoin to two different chains. The price is 2,000. I'm now up tenfold. I'm a genius. My macro bet has paid off, sort of. I sell out. It goes up to 20,000 in 3 months later, and I don't mind. I don't mind because I've made 10 times my money. What I did was deviate from my thesis. My thesis was this was a 10-year bet. And I took the money off the table within 5. And then I went back, and then obviously I bought back in June, May, something like that, 2020, and had a good run and put more money into it than I had originally in my original bet. And I worked out that I had, as opposed to just holding my original bet, I used a theoretical number. So I think it was, if you put 10 grand into that first bet, it would have been worth 1.4 million.
Whoa.
By doing the right thing, buying reasonably low and selling reasonably high, and timing the market. That was a small fraction. It was, in fact, I think I made 20% of what I would have meant if I held on. And then I went back and looked at, okay, well, what did I actually do? Because I massively increased my position in June. I still underperformed by 5x. And then I went, okay, what happens if I'd done the right thing? What I should have done, which was my framework, which was you buy it when it's on sale, when there's blood in the streets. So I went back and looked at the bottoms of the bear market, assumed I'm an idiot and I can't catch the bottom of the bear market and miss it by 30%. And just put the same amount in each time that I started with. That 1.4 million would have been 30.
Whoa.
Sorry, not 30, sorry, 3.
But good Lord.
Had I rolled my profits in, had I just double down each time or whatever, the numbers go exponentially larger.